Welcome to Demystifying Kabbalah. Today, we'll be discussing the inner journeys and our spiritual practices in Kabbalah. Whether you're just starting out or you've been on the path for a long time, the techniques we're going to be learning about today are invaluable towards helping us hone our path towards more integration with reality from the divine. Let's embark on this inner journey together. Meditation and contemplation. Meditation and contemplation are cornerstones of a Kabbalistic practice. Through meditation, we quiet the mind and ready it to receive subtle information or perceiving subtle energies. Many Kabbalists focus on visualizing sacred symbols such as the Kabbalistic tree of life or individual or groups of Hebrew letters. By doing this repeatedly, it helps to hone our spiritual ability to connect. Techniques such as focused breathing and mantra repetition also allow us to get into a kind of receptive zone where the divine almost becomes seemingly accessible. No matter how one meditates, the repetitive practice is the same, drawing in light and releasing negative tensions, setting the stage for spiritual insight. There's definitely a paradox to meditation. It's both the easiest thing to do to quiet your mind in any one moment, and also the singularly most difficult thing people find. This paradox is evident in a lot of spiritual work. Kabbalistic prayer. Prayer in Kabbalah is not merely a recitation of words. It's an active engagement with the divine. Kabbalistic prayer is deeply personal, allowing us to connect directly with the divine. It often requires the use of sacred names and phrases, which allows us to connect directly with divine energy. By praying with heartfelt intention, we transform our inner lives and raise our spiritual vibration. When it comes to prayer, you can't fake it till you make it. Conviction and authenticity are everything. Spoiler alert, the universe can tell when you're faking it. Central to all Kabbalistic principles is the idea of emunah, or faith. Emunah is more than just a belief. It's a deep trust in the divine plan, even and especially when the path is unclear. Cultivating emunah requires us to surrender to the flow of life, knowing that every single experience is a stepping stone towards spiritual growth. This unwavering trust is the foundation upon all other practices are built. There are a variety of sacred texts in Kabbalah, such as the Zohar and the Sefer Yetzirach. These are just some of the invaluable guides on our spiritual journey. These works are not read passively, but are meditated upon. As we are actively studying these lessons, we have to let that energy soak into our consciousness, saturating our spiritual intake. Here is where we focus on the imagery of the letters, the metaphorical language in the stories, and the layers of meaning embedded in each paragraph. This form of meditation can be revelatory in many ways, specifically unlocking new insights which lead to spiritual revelations. Visualization is a powerful tool in Kabbalah. By consciously picturing the divine flow of energy and light, we can activate within ourselves latent spiritual energies as well. For instance, imagine overlaying the Kabbalistic tree of life over your entire body. Next, imagine the Kabbalistic tree of life activated with a singular flow of light and energy tracing down all the way to Malkut. With each Sephiroth that it stops at, you can imagine how the life force of the energy, the divine light, feeds each one of these beautiful energetic centers, therefore imbuing us with that same beautiful divine energetic light. It makes a lot of sense when you visualize it to remember that we are, if anything, but vessels to receive light. Visualization not only deepens our meditation and spiritual practice, but also brings abstract concepts into some kind of a tangible form. The practice of Devikut, clinging to God. Devikut, or the clinging to God, is a state of constant awareness that there's a connection with the divine at all times. It's about cultivating a persistent inner dialogue that reminds us that we are in constant unity with the Creator. Through regular prayer, meditation, and reflection, we learn to recognize and honor that divine spark within us, allowing us to maintain a constant connection with higher consciousness. The role of music and sound. In Kabbalistic tradition, music and sound are both seen as direct conduits to the divine. Chanting sacred verses, listening to spiritually uplifting music, or chanting sacred verses, playing traditional melodies, or even listening to spiritually uplifting music can help raise our consciousness. The vibrations of sound resonate with the soul, harmonizing our inner being and helping us to form a deeper experience with the divine. Fasting and other rituals. Physical practices such as fasting or special religious observances, specifically in Judaism, allow us to refine our connection with our soul. Fasting is particularly effective for body and spirit, creating space for introspection and spiritual clarity. Other rituals, whether lighting candles, reciting specific blessings, or performing specific ritualistic gestures or acts, are all designed to attune us to higher spiritual frequencies and bring us closer to a divine essence. The practice of tzedakah, or charity. Giving is a central pillar in the Kabbalistic practice. Tzedakah, or charity, is not just a physical act of giving money. It's an expression of love and responsibility towards the world. When we give selflessly, we mirror that divine attribute of limitless abundance and generosity. Acts of kindness, no matter how small, contribute to the collective elevation of human consciousness and help repair the world. Dream interpretation. Dreams have long been considered windows to the soul, and in Kabbalah, dreams carry a special resonant message. By paying attention to our dreams and reflecting on the symbolism, we can uncover spiritual insights about our inner world and our spiritual path. Whether it's a recurring image or an unexpected narrative, every dream has the potential to guide us towards better self-understanding. The practice of teshuvah, or repentance. Teshuvah, or repentance, is a vital aspect of spiritual renewal. It involves acknowledging our missteps, seeking forgiveness, and making conscious efforts to return towards our divine path, and making conscious commitments to return to our true divine nature. In Kabbalah, teshuvah is seen as a healing journey, a way to restore balance and clear spiritual blockages, and renew our connection to the divine. Balancing the ego. A major obstacle on the spiritual path is overcoming the limitations of the ego. Kabbalah teaches us that the ego, with its self-centered desires and attachments, can hinder our spiritual progress. Through practices like prayer, meditation, and self-reflection, we begin to see a balance in the ego. And that balance in the ego allows for our highest self to emerge, or our higher self to emerge, which leads to genuine transformation. The role of a rabbi or a teacher. In Kabbalah, the guidance of a knowledgeable teacher is invaluable. A spiritual mentor, such as a rabbi or a Kabbalah teacher, can help illuminate the hidden meanings that just lie underneath the text. Teachers provide personalized guidance and support, As we navigate these spiritual evolutions we so actively seek out as aspirants, it's important to be highly aware of who your teacher is. A teacher's role in helping us unfurl our spiritual development requires limited ego. It requires absolute work on the self and a willingness to put our students ahead of ourselves and practice the Socratic method at all times, to be a walking question mark. Understand that since I grew up as a Gentile, my experience with Judaism is limited to my cultural interactions. And so I endeavor to understand more. And the more that I take that conscious journey, the more I understand why we do what we do. Astrology and the Kabbalah. Astrology, too, has its place in Kabbalistic practice. The movements of the stars and the planets and the heavenly bodies are all expressions of divine order, influencing our inner lives and our spiritual growth. By studying the astrological influences, we begin to gain insight on the repetitive patterns in nature that help us tie into certain opportunities for spiritual growth, helping us align with the cosmic rhythms of the universe. Applying Kabbalah in daily life. Finally, all these practices come to bear on how we conduct ourselves every day, living our lives as contemporary practicing Kabbalists or aspiring practicing Kabbalists. Kabbalah isn't just some esoteric system designed for scholarly, rabbis who want to live in caves. It's a practical guide for living everyday life. It reminds us to be mindful of the prayers that we say, of the words that we speak, of the kindnesses that we perform, and why and how. Every moment is an opportunity to perform and to live in this spiritual dimension. This means being proactive in all aspects of life. Being proactive means taking all of these practices and injecting them into our work life, into every relationship that we have, into all facets of our lives, transforming the mundane into the sacred. Being proactive means taking all of these practices and injecting them into our work life, into all of our relationships, into every facet of our lives, therefore raising the mundane life into something sacred. As we conclude today's exploration of the spiritual dimensions and work that we do in Kabbalah, I invite you to reflect on all these different aspects: the meditation, the prayer, the contemplation. Which one of these resonate with you the most? Remember, these techniques are mere stepping stones towards more enlightened spiritual transformation. Every small act of mindfulness, every act of devotion carries its own spiritual ripples throughout the cosmos. All of this to remind us that we are a direct channel to the divine. If anything that we said today resonated with you, please share with a friend, especially somebody who's interested in Kabbalah. And please, thank you to all our Patreon supporters. Without you, this literally could not happen. I encourage everyone to follow along, subscribe for free, and support us in every way that you can. Once again, thank you so much for joining me on this path towards demystifying Kabbalah. I actively implore you to keep those rainbows rolling.